giving you an opportunity to get the full story from the people who tell it best. This is Mediacom News Leaders.
Hello everyone and welcome to Mediacom News Leaders. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Carol Kelly. Joining us today from Horizons, a family service alliance, we've got Elizabeth Lucas. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about the Horizons Survivors Program. Can you give us kind of a brief or a big overview of the program?
Sure. We are, the Survivors Program is one program within the larger Horizons organization, and we are a program that serves survivors of homicide and other violent crimes. So we're a victim advocacy program, and we work with family members of violent crime victims as well as the actual victims themselves. And sort of in a nutshell, we are the family's go-to person. We are their contact. We are the one that can get them in touch with resources that are needed. We can facilitate communication with different partners and help them sort of through the criminal process if there's a criminal trial process, and any other needs that they have, we are there to help.
It's a very heavy topic, obviously, and you're working with families that are going through something very heavy. Crime victims' families. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing to address the effects of what they're going through.
Mm-hmm. Well, no two crimes are exactly alike, and no two families are exactly alike, so the experiences always vary and are always different. But one of the things that's sort of a common thread between anybody who's experienced any kind of violent crime in their life is that there's a loss, and there's some sort of trauma that's usually experienced. And oftentimes that leaves people feeling a multitude of things, but a lot of times feeling alone in the world, sometimes feeling like their entire view of the world has changed. The world can look like a lot scarier place. People can seem to be a lot less trusting. So it really affects one's ability to kind of navigate the world. And we are there to help them through that process. And one of the really unique things about our program is we don't necessarily have an end date or a discharge date for folks we work with. So because we know if you're a victim of a violent crime, the results of that crime and kind of the aftermath of that crime is something that can come up at any time in life and can go away for a while and then come back. So we never really discharge anyone. We're always there for folks, and people can come and receive services, and then 10 years later can come back and receive services again, all at no cost.
And let's talk about those services.
Yes.
What does that look like?
There are several things that we offer. We offer what we refer to as peer counseling. So we have professionally trained victim advocates who work in our program, and they can sort of be there as a voice for family members and for victims. We can be there. We're not necessarily therapists, but we're there if they need someone to scream at, or if they need someone to cry to, or if they need some resources or some guidance in how to get through the process of grief. We are there to talk with them. A lot of that is done in people's homes. So we're able to go to people's homes, which is a little unique too, which can make folks sometimes feel a little more comfortable and less threatened. In addition to the peer counseling, we offer what we call court accompaniment. So if there is a violent crime survivor who is involved in a criminal justice process, if there's a trial that's happening, if there are charges that have been filed, if someone's been arrested, we can be with the family and with the victims through that entire court process. We can actually go to the court hearings with them, sit next to them. We can help them with any victim impact statements they may have to make, any interviews they do with law enforcement. We can be there with them and assist them with that. So we help them through the court accompaniment process as well. We also help with other kind of logistical things. There's something called crime victim compensation, and it is a sort of pot of money that any crime victim in the country is eligible for. Most of it goes through a state attorney general's office, and we can help with that paperwork and any other kind of logistical things that families might be experiencing.
And you mentioned that this service, it's free.
It is.
Tell us about the funding. How can you do what you do?
We are very fortunate that we're able to provide these services at no cost for clients. And the way in which we're able to do that is we're entirely grant funded. Our program relies entirely on one primary grant. It's a federal grant called the Victims of Crime Act grant that's dispersed through the Iowa Attorney General's office. So we receive funding for the program. Part of the one of the things we have to do as part of part of that grant contract is we have to come up with what's called match dollars. So we have to come up with some funding. They give us a certain amount, and then we have to come up with 25% of that amount also in fundraising that we need to do every year. So we're very fortunate to be able to have those funds.
Tell us about if there are other agencies across the state that do what you do.
Sure. There are about 10 other programs that across the state that work with survivors of homicide and other violent crimes. The unique part about the Horizon Survivors Program is we are one of the few standalone programs in the state. Many of the other programs are connected to a local domestic violence or sexual assault program. We are really unique in that we strictly serve homicide survivors and survivors of other violent crimes.
Who do you serve? Is it just this community, or talk about that?
Good question. We serve 14 counties in Iowa, mostly in eastern and southeastern Iowa, from Lynn County all the way down to the Missouri border. And so we have 4 advocates that serve 14 counties, which is not a whole lot of staff, but we do it, and we do it to the best of our ability with a lot of support.
Tell us a little bit about the relationship that you have, specifically with the law enforcement piece and,
Sure.
and those officers and attorneys in the investigation process.
Sure. Community partnerships is a huge piece to what we do, and we take pride in the partnerships we do have with our community agencies. Our role really is to be an advocate for the family and for the victims. So we are their voice. We are not law enforcement. We are not attorneys. We are not, correctional folks. However, we partner with all of those entities as much as we can to really help the family navigate those systems and be there as sort of their point of contact.
Tell us about how the community can help. How can they support the wonderful programs, the wonderful things you do for the community?
Yeah, there are lots of ways, actually. Most people aren't fully aware of our program because it's really a service you don't want to be aware of until you have to be aware of it. Mm-hmm. But being aware of it can be really helpful. Simple things like if we have a trial going on and things like lunch for the families is not something our grant covers necessarily. So any volunteers who might be willing to make lunch for a week for a family in one of our rural counties who's going through a trial would be very helpful. Small little things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily think of. It's not a matter of coming and necessarily counseling or working with a victim, but little things like providing the food, providing gas cards for folks who have to drive distances to get to hearings or meetings. And all of that can be found on our website, which is at horizonsfamily.org.
And this is just one piece of the big puzzle, like you said, the services that are provided by Horizons.
Yes.
How can someone learn a little bit more if they qualify for specifically the Survivors Program?
Sure. You can check out our website. That would be my first suggestion. You could also call our business line, which is 319-398-3943, and ask to speak with someone from the Survivors Program. We'd be happy to chat with you. But really, our services are available to anyone in any of those 14 counties who has been a victim of violent crime. And that does not mean that you have to be involved with law enforcement or the criminal justice process. So even if it's a crime you haven't reported or that's not being prosecuted, we can still work with you. I just would like to mention one more thing. We have our annual fundraising benefit coming up on September 6th. Which is the Survivors Benefit at A Touch of Class here in Cedar Rapids. And it's our one opportunity to raise our 25% match funds. So if you're interested, please check out our website or give us a call. There'll be a full dinner and a silent auction and all kinds of fun things. Stacy Walker's emceeing it, so well, it'll be great.
Head to the website for more information. Elizabeth,
Yes.
pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This has been Mediacom News Leaders.